If you are a senior and you experience any of the symptoms that I'm going to talk about in this video, you're probably missing this one food. The number one symptom is when you get up from a seated position, like a chair for example, and your leg muscles feel weak, and it takes you a few seconds to get your leg strength back. Another symptom is if you go up and down stairs and you find that you don't have the leg strength or the endurance to make it all the way up or down. You might have to sit down and rest or even take the handrail because your leg muscles are so weak. Another symptom would be if you had to walk up a slight incline, maybe like a little hill, and you find that you just can't make it. You gotta sit down again because your leg muscles are so weak. And even sometimes when you walk, you notice that you don't have the same leg strength or endurance. It feels like your legs are heavy, and you have to kind of drag them along as you walk. Even climbing up into bed on one side can be a challenge. Getting out of bed in the morning can be a challenge. Maybe you have to sit there for a few minutes until your legs get their strength back. These are all symptoms that you're probably missing this one food. I'm a family physician. Let's talk about what you need to add to your diet to keep this from happening to you. Now, this is also true with younger people, but as we age, we start losing muscle mass. That's called sarcopenia. It's a fancy word for loss of muscle mass as we age. We start losing muscle mass as early as age 30. So if you're only 30 years old and watching this video, it's time to pay attention because you're gonna start losing muscle mass. For most people, they lose between 3 to 8% of their muscle mass per decade, starting at age 30. But when you hit age 60, you start losing 15% of your muscle mass every single year. So by the time you reach 70, you've lost almost half of your muscle mass. So it is critical as we age that we do things to prevent the loss of muscle mass. But one of the most important things you can do is to make sure that you're getting enough protein in your diet. As we age, our dietary requirements for protein actually increase. When you're young, a good rule of thumb is that 1 pound of body weight per day will give you adequate protein. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you need 200 grams of protein per day. But as we age, our requirements for protein actually increase. If you are over the age of 65, I recommend eating 1.25 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you should be consuming 250 grams of protein per day. Now, why does protein help build muscle? Well, after you exercise, especially resistance-type exercises where you're lifting weights or you're doing some kind of resistance training, your muscles actually get damaged. That is normal, and that is how they rebuild and get stronger, is after that microscopic damage occurs. So when you work out, you want to make sure you eat enough protein so that you can repair that muscle tissue and make it stronger. Now, it doesn't have to be right after you work out. You can space it out over the next 24 hours, but you need to make sure that you're getting enough protein into your diet. So let's talk about some foods that are high in protein. Lean meats, like chicken breast, turkey breast, pork tenderloin, fish, those are all very high in protein. Eggs are one of the best sources of protein and they're super easy to prepare. Then we have dairy products, like non-fat Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, cheese in general, milk, those are all good sources of protein. And then we have nuts and seeds that are good sources of protein. But the problem with nuts and seeds is they also contain a lot of fat, which is good. But if you're trying to lose weight, the combination of protein and fat together tends to cause a little bit more satiety than just protein alone. So if you're trying to lose weight, you may want to avoid nuts and seeds and stick primarily with lean meats and eggs and dairy products. Beans are another great source of protein, and they don't contain any fat at all. In fact, they're really good for helping you lose weight. Soy products like tofu and tempeh are also very high in protein. Now here's the thing. Most people easily get enough protein in their diet. They just don't realize that they are wasting a lot of that protein by not pairing it with the right foods. When you combine certain foods with protein, your body cannot use that protein as efficiently. One of the worst foods to combine with protein is carbohydrate. The reason being is that when you consume carbohydrates, your body starts breaking them down into sugar. And the first thing your insulin does is it prevents your body from breaking down protein for energy. So if you're consuming a lot of carbohydrates, your body is never going to break down protein for energy. It's always going to break down the carbohydrates. So when you eat a meal that is primarily carbohydrates, like a sandwich or a piece of bread or pasta, anything like that, your body is not going to touch the protein in that food to use it for energy. Instead, it's going to convert all of those carbs into sugar and then use that for energy. The second problem with eating a high-carbohydrate diet is that it causes something called insulin resistance. Insulin resistance makes it harder for your body to absorb nutrients, including protein, from the food that you eat. So if you are eating a high-carb diet, you're probably not absorbing as much protein as you could from the food that you eat because your body is resistant to insulin. The third problem with eating too many carbs is that when your blood sugar starts going up and down, up and down, up and down, that causes your pancreas to start producing more and more insulin to try to keep up with it. Eventually, your pancreas runs out of insulin, and that causes your blood sugars to rise out of control, leading to a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. One of the side effects of having uncontrolled type 2 diabetes is accelerated muscle loss. So if you're eating a high-carb diet, you're going to lose muscle faster than someone who is on a low-carb diet. Now, in addition to the loss of muscle, eating a high-carbohydrate diet can cause a lot of other problems, like high blood pressure, high triglycerides, fatty liver, and even accelerated aging. Eating a lot of carbohydrates also causes inflammation throughout your entire body, and that inflammation accelerates the aging process. So, if you're wanting to slow down the aging process and prevent muscle loss, you need to reduce the amount of carbohydrates that you're eating. The second worst food to combine with protein is oxalates. Oxalates are a natural chemical that is found in many plant-based foods that can bind with calcium in your body and form calcium oxalate crystals. When you have an accumulation of these crystals in your joints, it causes pain and inflammation. Some of the highest sources of oxalates are spinach, beets, nuts, chocolate, tea, and wine. The third worst food to combine with protein is alcohol. Alcohol reduces the amount of protein that your body absorbs, and it can also lead to liver disease, which also leads to muscle loss. So what is the one food that you need to add to your diet to prevent muscle loss as you age? It is healthy fat. Healthy fats, like omega-3 fatty acids and monounsaturated fats, like the ones found in olive oil, have been shown to improve insulin sensitivity. Improved insulin sensitivity means that your body can better absorb protein from the food that you eat. So if you're wanting to improve your health and prevent muscle loss, start adding healthy fats to your diet. So remember, as you age, you need to increase your protein intake to 1.25 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. To help your body absorb that protein more efficiently, you need to add healthy fats to your diet, like omega-3 fatty acids and monounsaturated fats, like the ones found in olive oil. Avoid combining protein with carbohydrates, oxalates, and alcohol, and watch your muscles grow back and become stronger. This is the doctor. I'll see you next time.